Hello, everybody. I am open to week 3. We are now officially well into our content for the course, and you're going to be noticing that the pace picks up just a little bit in terms of the readings. Typically, the first chapter in many textbooks is just an overview, some history, and then once you start making your way into future chapters, you're going to find more content, definitions, concepts, and so forth. So this week we are focusing on stress, particularly its meaning, impact, and sources. It's chapter 3 in your text. And if you'll notice, we've skipped chapter 2. As I say in the syllabus, chapter 2 will be covered in segments, which are called modules. So if you break open your textbook right now, you can pause this podcast and do it. What you're going to find is that chapter 2 is broken up into modules. Each module covers a physiological system of the body. So modules 1 and 2 are going to be the nervous system and the endocrine system. And we cover these modules specifically while we are talking about stress, because the nervous system and the endocrine system are those systems of the body most affected by stress. Lots of things happen in those two bodily systems that sort of have a trickle-down effect for the rest of the body. Lots of implications for health when it comes to how stress affects those systems. So we're only covering modules 1 and 2 of chapter 2 while we talk about chapter 3, stress. And you're going to see that we do this in certain chapters as we go. So for this week, you're already listening to the podcast overview. You're going to want to check out the objectives below and the podcast that goes with them, where I outline each objective and what you can expect to try to understand from each of these. This is really a mini lecture in that I'm outlining each of the concepts, what to emphasize, key differences between things, where to focus, things like that. So that's going to be real helpful for you. So make sure that you do that. After you've looked over the objectives and you've listened to the podcast that goes with the objectives, now that podcast is going to show up somewhere right underneath here. I haven't done it yet, so it's not there yet, but you'll notice it pops up right underneath this title here. You can click on it and I will read to you the objectives along with where you need to be focusing. After you've done that, then it's a good time to go ahead and read the chapter. So I always say look at the objectives first so you kind of know what to expect, and then dive into the chapter. So then you can read chapter 3, stress, meaning, impact, and sources in your Serafino and Smith book. And then you can read chapter 3 also in the Longevity Project, which the topic is friendly and convivial, healthy, or trivial. So it's going to be talking about socializing pretty much and its relations to our health. After you've read that, you can go ahead and watch the below video I have for you guys. Here's your lecture slides too. You can go ahead and look at those while you're reading. That's probably the best bet, is to kind of follow along those lecture slides while you read. But here's the video. It is a documentary, and it features the work of Robert Sapolsky, who is a neurobiologist at Stanford. He is world known for his work, and this is an essential video. It is about an hour, like about 50 minutes. It is chock full of great information. So what I've done is I've attached a worksheet that goes with it. I'm not collecting the worksheet. You don't have to turn it in, but I want you to use it because then you'll make sure you're getting all the key points from the video. Because sometimes when students watch videos, there's a tendency to kind of zone out. I know because I've been a student and I've done that. So the worksheet's meant to kind of help you not zone out and focus on all the key things I want you to get out of this video. Sometimes you might have to stop the video and play it back in certain parts because it's just, he goes over how stress affects your body. Short-term, long-term, good stress, bad stress, the systems of the body that are affected, and he's going to talk a lot about the nervous system and the endocrine system. I'm guessing some of you are a little familiar with those bodily systems if you've taken other psych classes, or if you're in the health sciences or movement science, you've probably had some physiology at some point, but some of you haven't. Some of you do not know much about the nervous system or the endocrine system, how they operate. So this is really vital. I would spend some time. If you had to spend any time on anything this week, this would be it. I mean, definitely do your reading. You got to read. But this video is just so essential. So make sure you watch that. And I would watch it after you've read the chapter. So read the objectives first, look them over, read the chapter, then watch the video. And the video is going to help illustrate a lot of the concepts and points that you read about in the chapter. So that's your video. And once you've done that, then you are ready to go ahead and do the discussion for the week. Okay, and the discussion for the week, really, that's where we zone in and focus on the longevity book. So you're going to notice that most of the discussions center around the longevity book, but there's many opportunities for you to embed in there concepts you're reading from the main text, the Serafino and Smith text. So although the questions have to do with things in the longevity book, you're going to see a lot of ways to cross-reference what you're also reading in the main chapters. Because this is health and it relates to many things that we do, you're going to notice that as the termites are going through certain things and you're learning about how everything's connected in the term study, we might also at the same time be reading something about that in our main chapter of our book. So anytime you can draw connections between the two, I would like to see that in your discussion posts. Okay. So this week's discussion centers around associable personality, as well as what kind of a communicator you are. And so there are, I kind of put some information in here. You're going to answer the assessment questionnaire, which is embedded in the chapter. And this chapter actually has 2 of them. You're going to complete each one, okay? And you're going to answer all of these for each one. So one assessment deals with just sociability in general, and the other assessment deals with emotional sociability. Important to know how those 2 are different. One is more of a general kind of how are you around other people, and the other is more emotionally how do you connect with people? How open are you to connecting? So you're going to take those assessments. They're in the longevity chapter 3, and you're going to score yourself according to how it tells you to score yourself, and you're going to interpret that score. What does that mean? Well, once you've read the chapter, you'll know. The chapter is all about socializing. What did it do for the termites? Was it good? Was it bad? How did it relate to their health and their longevity? What were their communication patterns like, and how did they fare due to that? So based on that, which you read, you can interpret your score. If you scored high or you scored low, what does that mean about you? Now that you kind of are a mini expert in sociability. Okay, so that's the first part of the discussion, is answering these according to your assessments. And then you dive into some specific questions about the research findings from the term and study. What did they suggest about being selective with whom you socialize with? Why is that important? How does sociability relate to our longevity and health? Give me some examples. Tell me about some of the termites. Who were they? How'd they fare? And then discuss, maybe here's where I ask you to kind of step outside the box. Discuss the different reactions you might get from people when you go out to socialize, but you don't communicate emotionally. What would that look like? Maybe in your circle of friends or in a circle that you're not familiar with. If you were to socialize but not communicate emotionally, what does that mean and what would that look like? That's your discussion post for the week. Again, tie in the Serafino and Smith book, if at all possible. Tie in the longevity book. Cite what you're tying in. Anytime you make reference to a source, you want to cite it. Try not to use direct quotes. Always better to paraphrase and then cite the author and date. Okay. If you have trouble with citations, you can go back to the Cite as You Write document, which is in the Start Here menu on the left-hand side here. So you can always go back to this Start Here menu and you can use that as a guide. Okay. Make sure that you're also using the discussion grading rubric so that you know to make sure you're putting in everything you need to be putting in into these discussions. Okay, you should be answering the discussion post, that's your original post, by the 18th, Friday. And then you should be responding to 3 other people by the 20th. Spread them out, don't do them all in one day. That's why I've given you 2 different due dates. We want to make sure that everyone has a chance to respond to the original post before you start responding to theirs. Or else it's not fair to people who maybe post later in the day on Friday. They might have no one comment on their work, right? And so to make sure that everyone has a shot at getting some comments, we want you doing that, okay? So that's your postings for the week. Again, just some general housekeeping. If you need to contact one another, if you want to form a study group via Zoom or however you want to do that, if you need help getting the textbook because you don't have yours yet, a great place for that would be in the communications tab. You can go to the student lounge. The student lounge is for you. It's your lounge. It's a place for you to chat with one another. You can go there, you can ask a question, you can ask for feedback or help or something from another student, and that's your space. I did also want to make you aware of a change in my office hours. I've had to finagle my schedule around due to my kids and their learning, which has been fun. So my office hours are now 2 to 3:30 on Mondays and Wednesdays. Many of you just email me, and so that's fine. If you have questions, you can email me anytime and I'll get back to you within 24 hours. But if you'd like to Zoom or you'd like to call and you want that face-to-face, I'm available Mondays and Wednesdays from 2 to 3:30 for that purpose, okay? Here's your student lounge if you want to talk to each other. It's a good place. And here's Ask Dr. W. If you want to post a question related to the class and you want to give everyone the benefit of seeing my answer, because they might have those same questions, that's a good place to do it, okay? I hope that gives you a good week in view. Again, please feel free to reach out to me throughout the week if you have questions as you're working through the material. I'd be more than happy to elucidate any concepts or things for you that you're struggling with. I can always do little mini podcasts of a concept if that's helpful. So please let me know. And I look forward to a great week talking about stress and all the fun that it is. All right, guys, have a good week.